Philadelphia, 1984. A pedestrian crossing the street at a busy intersection looks down and sees something strange embedded in the asphalt. It's not a pothole. It's not a road marking. It's a rectangular tile about the size of a license plate. It is made of a hard, colorful, linoleum-like material, and it carries a bizarre, haunting message in bold, jagged letters. Toynbee idea and movie, 2001 Resurrect Dead on planet Jupiter. The pedestrian keeps walking, confused. But then a few blocks later, they see another one, and another. Soon, these Toynbee tiles start appearing in cities all across the United States. New York, Chicago, Boston, Washington, D.C. Then, they go international. Rio de Janeiro, Buenos Aires. For over 4 decades, thousands of these tiles have been appearing in the middle of some of the busiest streets in the world. No one sees them being installed. No one knows what the message means. And for years, no one knew who was behind them. Is it a cult? A mad scientist? Or a lonely man with a message for the end of the world? This is the mystery of the Toynbee tiles, the most persistent and cryptic street art puzzle. To understand why people are obsessed with these tiles, you have to look at the how. Installing something in the middle of a city street is incredibly difficult. You have to stop traffic, dig into the asphalt, and wait for it to dry. Yet these tiles appear overnight in the center of high-traffic intersections, sometimes right in front of police stations or government buildings. The stakes aren't just about vandalism. The message itself is a rabbit hole. It's not an advertisement. It's not political activism in the traditional sense. It is a directive, a philosophical idea that suggests humanity can achieve immortality through a bizarre connection between a British historian. For 40 years, amateur detectives, filmmakers, and conspiracy theorists have dedicated their lives to solving this. Because if someone has the resources to tag 2 continents with a message about resurrecting the dead, what else are they capable of? To solve the mystery, we have to break down the 4 lines of text. First, Toynbee idea. This refers to Arnold J. Toynbee, a famous 20th century British historian. His work focused on the rise and fall of civilizations. He believed that a civilization's survival depended on its ability to respond to challenges. Second, in movie 2001, this points to Stanley Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey. In the movie, a mission is sent to Jupiter where a human is transformed. The third and fourth lines are Resurrect Dead on planet Jupiter. When combined, the creator believes that by following Toynbee's theories and utilizing the themes of Kubrick's film, we can literally bring every human back to life. It sounds like the manifesto of a brilliant mind pushed to the edge of reality. But who had the obsession and the mechanical skill to turn this obsession into a physical reality across 2 hemispheres, all while remaining completely hidden? In the 1990s, the mystery deepened. Small side tiles began to appear next to the main messages. These were long, angry rants against the media, the government, and the mafia. One tile claimed that NBC was suppressing the Toynbee idea. Another claimed that the hell bitch was trying to stop him. The creator was becoming paranoid. He felt like he was a prophet being ignored by a world that didn't want to be saved. But the most impressive part was the technology. The tiles weren't just glued down. They were wrapped in tar paper and placed on the road during the heat of the day. As cars drove over them, the pressure and the heat of the sun would literally bake the tile into the asphalt. By the time the tar paper wore away, the tile was fused to the earth. The tiler didn't need to stop traffic. He just had to drop a package out of a car door and let the world do the work for him. He was using us to install his manifesto. Solving a decades-old urban mystery requires a soundtrack that feels like a midnight drive through a rainy city. That's why I use epidemic sound. When I'm talking about the tiler dropping packages at 3 a.m., I need music that is gritty. Epidemic sound gives me access to over 40,000 tracks, including a massive selection of dark synth and industrial music that fits the Toynbee aesthetic perfectly. If you're a creator, you don't want to spend hours looking for a song. With Epidemic, you get a personal or commercial license that covers everything. You can even use their SoundMatch tool to find tracks with the same emotional energy as your favorite mystery documentaries. It's the secret weapon. Check the link in the description to start your free trial. Now, Let's look at the man in the van who turned the streets of major world cities into his own personal printing press for his Jupiter-based resurrection theories. For years, the Toynbee Tiles was a ghost. Then in the early 2000s, a group of researchers in Philadelphia, led by Justin Duerr, started following a trail of breadcrumbs. They found a strange shortwave radio broadcast from the 1980s. A man had called into a talk show using the name James Marasco. He spoke passionately about the Toynbee idea. He talked about the need to colonize Jupiter and resurrect the dead. They tracked down a James Marasco, but he was an elderly man. Then they found a different lead. A name popped up in the rants, found on some of the tiles: Severino Verna. Verna lived in South Philadelphia. He was a recluse. Neighbors reported that he had a van with no floorboards. The theory: Verna would drive over a specific spot in the road, and through the hole in the floor of his van, he would drop the tile package without ever having to step outside. This explained why no one ever saw him installing the tiles. When researchers visited Verna's neighborhood, they found something chilling. Verna's house was covered in strange antennas. They interviewed neighbors who remembered him as a man obsessed with his shortwave radio. He had spent years trying to broadcast his Jupiter message to the world, but the FCC kept shutting him down. The tiles were his plan B. If the airwaves wouldn't carry his message, the ground would. But here's the twist: Verna never admitted to it. He never gave an interview. He never claimed his art. To him, this wasn't art. It was a life-or-death mission for the human race. Even after the researchers pinpointed him as the likely creator, the tiles kept appearing in new locations. New ones were found in 2010, 2015, and even as recently as a few years ago. The messages have evolved. They are smaller now, sometimes using different materials. Some believe Verna is still out there, now in his 70s or 80s, still driving. What makes the Toynbee Tiles so powerful is their endurance. Most street art is washed away or painted over within weeks, but the Toynbee Tiles are built to last. They become part of the city's skeleton and represent a form of outsider art. Verna didn't want fame. He didn't want a gallery show. He wanted to save your soul. He truly believed that the secret to eternal life was hidden in a 1960s sci-fi movie and the writings of a dead historian. He was willing to spend 40 years. He spent thousands of dollars of his own money to make sure you saw that message while you were waiting for the light to change. There is something beautiful and deeply tragic about that level of dedication. It is the ultimate challenge and response that Arnold Toynbee wrote about. The challenge was a world that didn't listen. The response was the asphalt. He left a legacy that will be etched into our streets for decades to come. Today, many of the original Toynbee tiles have been lost to road construction and repaving, but hundreds still remain, worn down by millions of tires, their colors fading, but their message still legible. The city of Philadelphia considers them nuisances, but to the people of the city they are landmarks. They are part of the urban folklore. The mystery of who has mostly been answered. It's likely Severino Verna, but the mystery of why remains as vast as the planet Jupiter itself. Maybe Verna saw something in those stories that gave him hope in a world that felt cold and dying. Maybe the tiles are his way of making sure that when the resurrection finally happens, we'll know exactly where to go. The Toynbee tiles are a reminder that the world is much weirder than we think. Right beneath our feet, in the middle of our mundane daily commutes, there are messages from a different reality. They remind us that everyone we pass on the street is carrying a universe of their own, sometimes a universe that involves Jovian resurrections and secret histories. Next time you're crossing the street, stop looking at your phone for a second. Look at the ground. You might find a message meant just for you. A message from a man in a van who wanted you to live forever. The Toynbee idea might not bring the dead back to life, but it has made our streets immortal. The tiler is still out there. The message is still waiting. Are you listening? Because the asphalt has a story to tell, and it's a story about a man who refused to let the truth be buried, even if he had to bury it himself.